And Cody's Caravan, we're live in Colfax. I have fallen in love with this town. I love this place, Roger. You love this place.
I love this place.
It's
Yeah,
amazing.
absolutely.
It's
Yeah,
amazing.
Great history here.
The history here is unbelievable.
Right.
So my friend Roger said he would take us on a little walking tour and explain how the trains used to work here. Now, we're standing on the tracks.
Right.
It doesn't look like we're standing on the tracks, but we're actually on the tracks.
Exactly. First thing to realize about Colfax and railroads is the tracks moved. So if you're looking at old photos, you have to know where you're before 1910 or after 1910, because in 1910 the tracks moved. Originally the tracks came roughly where we're standing here across what is now this parking lot, and then angled on through town. The reason it did that is there was a hillside right over here that extended way out almost to where this track is. And then at the other end of town there was a hillside on this side that extended out. When they were building this railroad in 1865, it was all manual labor. So the manual labor, you didn't go through hillsides, you went around them. So the tracks made a kind of a lazy S pattern through town here, missing this hillside and missing the hillside on the other side of town. So the tracks, when we look at some of these early pictures, the tracks actually are right about through this parking lot right here.
So not that track.
Not that track over there.
Not the track over there. Not that one, and not that one. It would have been right here in this parking lot.
Right, and it was kind of a lazy or a skinny X pattern relative to the current tracks where the original tracks went through. They paralleled Main Street. Colfax did not exist until the railroad got here. Town was built up along the railroad. So now when we go look at our first photo, which is this picture, see that on there? What we see is there was a passenger depot here and a long 500-foot long freight shed. Those would have been right about the passenger depot sitting right about here, the long freight shed running down on the Main Street side of the tracks all the way through town here.
Oh. So what were they transporting? What was the big thing?
The reason for this being such a big freight shed, about 500-foot long, that's a pretty big building, is this served as the staging area for the future construction that was still going on, going up over the
really?
Pass. So a lot of supplies and materials were staged here in that freight shed and then provided to the crews as they went further and further up the hill. So this was a very active place. Even at that stage, we were at the end of the track for a while, but all that construction was still going on above us here.
So really the expansion of the West, because of Colfax, because you had to put all the stuff here to get going.
We were a big part of the rest of the construction on up. Once the tracks reached here, the train started running to Colfax in September of 1865, been running through town ever since, but on this track originally, not that track.
Not that track or that track.
Right. So again, looking at these pictures, you have to kind of get oriented, because the tracks are the obvious thing you look at as a reference point in pictures, but that's not that track.
Not that track.
It's this track.
That's fantastic. Okay, we're going to keep our tour going on and learning about the history of Colfax and the history of trains in Colfax with my friend Roger.
We'll talk about that building right there.
Okay, that building coming up. All right, that's coming up. Back to you guys. I love trains.
Right? Trains, history, it's all wrapped into one.
And that building right there. Thank you, Code.
This morning, we're getting a little history lesson from one of our local towns, Colfax.
Yeah, Cody and the Caravan made it all the way there this morning to show us a little bit about history. Hey, Code.
Yeah, we're taking a little walking history tour. My friend Roger here. Roger, you started doing these tours, what, 5-10 years ago?
About 10 years ago.
About 10 years ago?
Yeah. And been doing them off and on since that time.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for doing this. I'm learning a lot. Okay, we're standing in front of this building, and I teased that it's moved a bunch.
Right. Before we get to that, though, I want to kind of set the tone again. We're standing where the tracks went through town originally.
Okay.
On this side of the tracks was that 500-foot long freight shed, and it actually extended beyond that street there, so that was not an open crossing at that time.
Oh, so it was right in the middle of the road where the
It
cars
was right in the
are.
middle of the road, yeah.
Okay.
And on this side, right behind us, was where the passenger depot was.
Okay.
So that's setting the tone. In 1876, Nevada County Narrow Gauge Railroad started operation here. That was connecting Colfax with the mines in Grass Valley, Nevada City. And it came in on the opposite side of the tracks and beyond the passenger depot.
Okay.
So it kind of came in at an angle along through here. In 1881, they decided we don't need this big long freight shed here anymore. So they cut a big chunk of it out and built this building that you see back here. So it dates back to 1881. And it was again, right across the roadway. So again, no crossing there. And on this end of that freight depot, they built what was called a transfer shed. It was a long, narrow shed that came down on this side of the tracks, and that was to be able to transfer goods from the standard gauge cars to the narrow gauge cars.
Okay, okay.
But that created a problem though, because the narrow gauge was on that side of the tracks and the transfer shed was on this side of the tracks. So they had to bring freight cars across the mainline tracks to get on the Main Street side of the transfer shed.
That's a mess.
That was not a really big problem initially, but as traffic continued to increase through town on the railroad, it started becoming a bottleneck here.
Okay.
So we get up to 1905. Again, we have the passenger depot over here. It burned down. And that opened up a space over there between the standard gauge tracks and the narrow gauge tracks. So they took this freight depot and its transfer shed and moved them from there across the tracks.
Across the tracks.
And now the freight depot and transfer shed are between the standard gauge tracks and the narrow gauge tracks.
Okay.
That all happened in 1905. And it happened because the the passenger depot was no longer there. So you had the space available to move the freight depot over there. Not only did you move it across the tracks, they moved it slightly this way, opened up this Grass Valley Street crossing.
Oh, okay. So that's the history of that.
That's the history of that. And then beyond here, we still need a passenger depot. So they built the new passenger depot down here in 1905. It's the one that sits there today.
And then they had to move it again.
Well, that comes in the next
Oh,
segment.
that comes in the next segment. He said,
Because-
you're good at teasing this stuff. That's perfect. So the next segment, we'll find out why that moved there. That's all coming up. Thank you, Roger. This is fascinating. They had to move that place 3 or 4 times. This is crazy. All right, we'll tell you the rest of the history coming up. Back to you guys.
That's much-
I'm learning stuff.
Much bigger than moving a couple of boxes. I'll tell you that much.
A little bit to the left. All right. Thanks, Cody.
Code.
And welcome back, Cody's Caravan. We are in beautiful Colfax, and I cannot stress beautiful more. It is so beautiful here. The trees are starting to change. Fall has arrived. It's gorgeous. Okay, so if you guys back at the studio could pull up that picture for us, because we're going to talk about what's not here. We're going to talk about what's not here. So go ahead and pull that picture up so we can kind of get people orientated to what we're looking at. Got it? Okay, let's talk, Roger.
Okay. Looking westbound now at the other end of town, there was a hillside on the right. You can see where it's been cut away. Just as at the other end of town, that hillside extended way out into the open area, you see. Mm-hmm. So the tracks originally went around that hill through the buildings that are kind of on our left here, the fruit sheds, and then across in front of the passenger depot, and then continuing on where we were standing earlier. But in 1909, 1910 timeframe, Southern Pacific decided they wanted to have double track through here to eliminate some of the congestion. So there's an uphill track and a downhill track. Here in Colfax, that also involved creating a large yard here. The reason for that large yard is we had an engine house here in town. That should show in that photo. That engine house sat right down here, just this side of the trees we can see in the distance. But there's nothing there now to even show that it was there. That was very important to Colfax. From 1912 through 1949, we housed several helper locomotives here in Colfax. Because the problem is when you went from Colfax east up towards Emigrant Gap, there were some very steep sections of the track. And so you needed an extra little boost for these bigger trains that were running.
Yeah.
So they would add these helper locomotives here in Colfax. They would help pull it up to Emigrant Gap. They would cut the locomotives off and bring them back down here. So the engine house was here to service those engines and keep them ready to go, so they could be added on and help get the trains up the grade, up to John.
Fascinating. So was there ever a thought of like lowering the grade?
They originally would have liked to lower the grade to get it a more even grade all the way, but going from here on up, you had to go past Cape Horn. You had a bunch of mountain areas where you're right up on the ridge. It was not very practical and would have been very costly to route the traffic, the uphill track a different way. So the decision was finally made, let's just put the second track right, in essence, beside the original track, and help add the helper locomotives here to help pull those steeper grades.
That is fascinating, Roger. Thank you so much.
So that engine house sat here until 1949. It was closed then. It was torn down in 1951. That was when the diesel locomotives started replacing steam. So it was no longer serving a useful purpose. greatly changed things, and now, of course, there's no evidence that it was there
There's no evidence
other
there.
than the photos.
Wow. Roger, thank you for the tour, man. That was so interesting. I learned so much today. This guy's got a lot in his head. All right, coming up next hour, I got one more stop here in Colfax. They are the Bunco Babes. These women get together. They raise money for different organizations. They play bunco. They want to make me an honorary Bunco Babe this morning.
buncoid?
I'm very excited about this. It's a high honor. I'm a Bunco Babe.
You're a Bunco Bay bonus.
Also, Cody, with those changing
That's right.
leaves behind you and that sweater, you can really go take some cute fall pictures today.
Really? Instagram?
Yeah, very
One of those
Instagram worthy.
Wide brim hats that you wear just on the back of your head.
As Halisa says, lens on the left.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Lens on the left.
Yeah,
Thanks, Code.
I'll work on that, yep.
Thanks, Cody. All right, all the things to say about our very own Cody Stark. Perhaps the top of the list is that he is a very fun hang.
Absolutely. He has been invited to join a club of card-playing Colfaxers, the Bunco Babes. Hi, Code.
The Bunco Babes, the Bunco Babes. There they are right here.
Woohoo!
We got a group of the Bunco Babes. I am an honorary Bunco Babe. Thank you very
are.
much, Carmen. I appreciate this. So let's talk about the history of this. Because it started out, you moved here, didn't know anybody.
Correct. I moved to Colfax. I didn't have any friends up here, so I went on Facebook and invited people to join a group I was just starting, and made about 5 friends that first night, and we've grown from there to 20 members now, and I have met some of the best women that I've ever known. And thank you. And we have also we changed it into not just meeting together and joining and having fun playing this game, but helping kids for Christmas. And we help, gosh, it's been a few hundred kids every year, or total, but at least 50 kids every year locally, and buying them exactly what they want for Christmas based off of our
That's amazing.
dues that we pay each month, and we're asking friends and family, and it's just been wonderful.
So just that idea, you're like, how can I make friends? This was a perfect way. And then you're linking all these women together in this community.
Yes,
amazing.
it's totally amazing.
It's amazing.
We would have never known each other, and now some of us, we all love each other, but some of us, we have like little friendships in between where you've met your best friend within this group, and it's just been amazing.
I am in love with this. Okay, here's the QR code, by the way. If you folks at home, grab your phone right here. If you want to help them out for Christmas. Last year they helped 88 kids.
Correct.
88 kids. It started with 6 in
Six our first
2016.
year.
But now 88, and this year is going to be even bigger.
I hope so. Our kids hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. I love this. Bunco! Okay, if you yeah, we gotta tell a story of that little guy. What is that little guy? Where are you doing with that?
Well, we usually stick him down our shirt. But when you get a bunco, but I don't have much to hold him up, so I gotta just kind of tuck him in there. But this is Pierre, and we love him.
Pierre's seen some things. He's seen some things. Okay, if people don't know how to play bunco, how do you play?
So this is a dice game. It's kind of a takeoff on Yahtzee. We start with 3 dice. Yep, we've got 3 dice over here, and it's done in rounds. So the first round, you're going to roll for 1s. If you get a 1, you get to keep rolling, and we're just going to count it up and count it up. If you get 3 1s, that is your bunco, and that's how we have Pierre. He's your big prize, is the Pierre. If you get a mini bunco, which means you're on 1s, but you got 3 6s, so you get some extra points. The head table, which is these guys over here, when they get to 21 points, the round is over, and we move to the next number.
You keep
And
going.
that's all it is.
That's
we
all it
just sit
is.
there and play dice and talk and laugh and get to know everybody.
And get to know everybody.
Come. I mean, you should come on our monthly, even though we're not allowed to have men, but you would laugh so much because
bet.
I cry so much because I laugh so hard there. It's really a fun time.
I'm in. I will take you up on that.
Well, I better ask the head people first.
No, it was on TV. It's on. It's on now. Thank you guys so much. The Bunco Babes of Colfax. Thank you. All right, back to you guys.